Hello, hello, hello. Now, it's been a long day. It's 3:45, a 4:15. It's the last session on the regular program. We have a keynote coming up in the plenary session at 5 o'clock, so looking forward to that. Yes. Today, we have from Avertra, for those of you who were here in the previous session, probably met the guys already. We have Bashir Bisrani, sorry if I forget if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Hey, and Giancarlo Reyes is going to talk to us about how you use Mendix to integrate SAP to the rest of the world. Very interesting stuff. They have asked for an interactive session, so I'm going to be running around with the mic. So if there's any questions, just run it. Okay? Perfect. And guys? Thank you. Take it off.
Hello? Hello? All right, perfect. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate everyone joining our session today. I know we're towards the end of the conference, and hopefully no one had a big lunch, so if not, hopefully you had a cup of coffee before this session. Today's discussion point is SAP integration utilizing Mendix. Quick introductions, Giancarlo Reyes, I'm the founder and also Chief Customer Officer of Avertra Corp. The good-looking man next to me is Bashir Sarani, who's the CEO of Avertra Corp. And before I give you the journey map of why, what, and how we are here today, I want to give you a snapshot of Avertra. So I started off in early 2000 working for a utility customer. They actually decided to implement SAP, is where I got exposed to SAP. So I was in my early 20s, stayed there for a couple years, and figured, you know what, I can go off and venture on my own, and actually provide better services than some of the SIs that I've worked with and other consulting firms. I was familiar with the business, had a good understanding of the technology as well, so I decided to go independently on my own in 2007 and form Avertra Corp. The initial business plan of Avertra Corp was to be purely just a staff aug, managed services. You know, I didn't really had a vision to be where I'm standing today in front of everyone. And it wasn't until 2009, 2010, where on a project in Oklahoma, came across and met Bashir. Funny story is the first day we met, actually, we decided to meet at his apartment, and over video games and beer, we just started talking about working together. You know, we were both in our mid to early 20s, and we thought, hey, we can conquer the world together. And so I shared Bashir some of my stories working in SAP and just implementation projects, and just realized, you know, I think we can provide better services. And so we made an agreement at that day. It didn't take until another couple, or 12 months to actually where we officially made that commitment, where the marriage, where he said I do, or I did as well. It was
he proposed to me, so it was nice.
I did. And so it was a smart grid project. It was a smart grid project that we worked in Oklahoma City together. We were primarily responsible for a smart grid initiative. That project actually,
sorry about that.
That project helped me mature as a consultant, and we were the pioneers in the U.S. with the smart grid. We were one of the first to deploy smart grid at the client was Oklahoma Gas and Electric. From there, actually, before I hand it off to Bashir regarding to our product division, is where we found a white space of applications that we felt we could do better. And our next division of the company, so we initially started with the professional services, was our product division, in which we made that investment to deploy applications as accelerators to automate or optimize processes. And that's where Bashir was the vision, the brains of that division. And I don't know if you want to give a background about the product division of Bashir.
Yeah, hey, can you guys hear me? I think you can, yeah. So after basically we met and we realized, like Giancarlo said, there was a lot of white space where a lot of these big ISVs were really focusing on core applications, databases, financial systems, ERP, stuff like that. And there was a big area for add-on applications like customer portals, purpose-built CRMs, certain communication platforms, interactive virtual agents. None of those big SAP is not working on that, right? They rely on partners to build these types of solutions and these types of applications. And that's where we basically started our journey building out our My Customer product line and the overarching My Utility platform that really sat on SAP to start, because that was our bread and butter, right? All of our customers were SAP. I came from an SAP background. I used to work for SAP as an employee, actually before meeting Giancarlo and coming on this journey with him. So we're very familiar with the space and very familiar with at least the utility aspect of that world, right? And that's where we said there was a big initiative for us to actually move forward and really start investing in products. And actually we went down the path of building out our applications using .NET, C#. SAP has a .NET connector that we were integrating with. And we went down that path, but then we realized, to be honest, that it wasn't fast enough. We had a lot of issues when it came to refactoring. Each SAP environment is different. One customer had it done one way, the other data model's a different way. And we had to go through a lot of refactoring every time we wanted to plug our products into the next customer. So it really felt we had more of a solution than a product, right? And that's really where we were introduced to Mendix. Actually, I have to thank Matt Daniels, who's sitting here, who was with me. He's a director of engineering. He was with me in the last session that we had, where he diligently started to look at different ways, and he actually first introduced me to a product called WaveMaker. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but it's trying to be Mendix and nowhere close. And that's where we really started analyzing this high-performance platform as a service space, and we reached out to Gartner because we were a customer of Gartner's at the time, and that's where they introduced us to Mendix, as well as OutSystems, as well as Appiant, as well as Force.com, and a few other platforms. But since our vision was to remain within the SAP space and to really help enhance that experience for any of our customers, we really went ahead and we integrated all those different platforms into SAP. We built the same app across all the platforms, and then we broke all the apps across the platforms. And that's where Mendix really stood out from a troubleshooting standpoint, ease of use, ease of integration with SAP, and it made a lot of sense for us to move down that path with Mendix. And that's where our eyes were really opened up, and we're going to be going in a little bit deeper later once Giancarlo is done, but that's where our eyes opened up in terms of all the different capabilities of Mendix. See, we were initially sold that Mendix is an app development tool, right, which is, I think, what everybody here is sold as, right? Everybody's convinced that Mendix can build apps. Well, at Avertra, we use Mendix for 3 use cases. Use case number 1, traditionally building apps, and that app could have a UI, or it could have no UI in the sense that it's a voice-based app, so it's voice UI, right? That's one. The second type of product or use case that we built with Mendix, which is what the session was before this, is utilizing Mendix as a robotic process automation framework, and we demoed that in the session before. The third use case that we have for Mendix is using it as a middleware, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about here. That how could we have Mendix sit between SAP and the rest of your application landscapes, where there are certain applications where you can actually integrate faster with SAP and with Mendix, and integrating it with things like Slack, social media, other systems. So, and we're going to be talking about a few examples there.
Just a couple other few items. So key accomplishments that we've been recognized by Eat 500 as one of the fastest growing companies, something that we're proud of.
Back-to-back years.
Back-to-back, yeah, consecutive years. Thanks for that, Bashir. We operate, so we're a global organization. Our headquarters is right outside of Washington, D.C. We have offices in Amman, Jordan, India, Dubai, and then we're planning to, or in the process of expanding our footprint here in the Netherlands as well.
Through acquisition.
Through acquisition. And again, just our locations and some of our customers, we're partners of Mendix. We're also a partner of SAP as well. And then so integrations. So there's 3 ways of integrations. One is within your internal network through a third party or through the cloud as well. Some of the challenges that customers face, or even ourselves, is understanding the integration options, right? There's not just one option, there's multiple within SAP. 2 is, do you have the skill set in-house, right? And so do you look for a vendor, third parties to help and assist? Or do you conform based on the business case to use what's the best solution or best practice from an integration perspective?
How many people here are running SAP?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, good. That's why you guys are here. Good. How many people here are running SAP on premise? The majority.
Oh, wow.
How many are running it in the cloud? So you have some components on-premise and on the cloud? So are you using like Ariba, SuccessFactors for cloud and ECCs on-premise? Okay, yeah. Yeah, something like that. Okay. The same with you guys? Okay.
Interesting. And so some of the other challenges is just documentation. So over my, 18 years now in the SAP field, after implementation, deploying the system, customers are in hypercare support. Post go live, there's changes or modifications, updates. Those detailed design documents or technical specs aren't being updated or being maintained, right? And so what ends up happening is 2 years down the road, post go live, resource, internal or external, if documentation isn't up to date, a lot of times you have to reverse engineer to figure out the solution or make changes to the integration. Again, just kind of to highlight here some of the integration options. Again, going back to the point that I just mentioned in the previous slide, decisions, what I've seen a lot of times is based on the expertise that is in-house for the customer. And again, going back to the point, just, you should conform to the business case to determine what is the best practice for the customer.
Yeah, and that's a key thing, right? It's basically like, what is the business case? What are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? And then based on that, we use the proper technology, right? And while sometimes like just you said, they do the opposite way. Yep. It's like, hey, I only have a PIPO person here, so if I'm going to be doing integration, I want to go through PIPO because that's what I have. Even though it might not be the best solution or the best way for us to do it, it might be better to go use the HANA Cloud. Right? It might be better to use iDocs. It might be better to go using another type of ESB and integrating. So it really have to look at what the use case is before. And our biggest message is don't let technology drive the use case. You actually have to have the business drive the technical lead. And sometimes we've seen that so many times where it's the opposite. That's why our customers love us when we come in and we really side with, it's not really siding with the business, but it's really helping IT truly understand what their business users are asking for. And sometimes it's difficult even though they work together. I'm sure you guys have faced this too, right, when working with your internal users.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the other, as business processes evolve and new integration scenarios are required, it may cause an impact with the integration architect, right? It may fail actually, right? And so what that does is basically it significantly reduces the business agility, and it's not a long-term solution for the customer. So the illustration here is, I think we've seen, or I've been involved in stuff where, I've done a lot of house renovations and things weren't done correctly, right? And so going back to the point, if you don't conform to what is best practice, there's a huge cost factor, right? And so to fix this or repair, there's a cost to it, right? And not just fixing it, but then you also have to do testing and then regression testing. There's a scenario where one of our previous customers, they went through a application upgrade, and there was issues with the integration, right? And so it was discovered during the QA phase of the SAP. And so there was a huge cost. They didn't have the skill sets in-house, and they had to hire a third party. And so one of the biggest drivers behind this is have proper planning, making sure you have defined, detailed methodology in place to help with the integration points.
Yeah, and another key thing that we've learned from a lot of our lessons before we get into how to use Mendix, and that's what kind of we're setting it up, in terms of the value of having something like Mendix in between to be this visual integration stack, is a lot of times our customers, to what GC said, not to repeat it, don't plan properly. And what do I mean by that? So if you're going through a large transformation project and you guys actually have integration with third-party applications that are outside of your network, you need to bring those folks to the table as soon as possible. You need to have your architecture team work with those third-party team members of yours, whether it's contractors or if you have third-party systems that you're integrating with, like an identity service, right? You guys really need to take that up front in the project and bring them as soon as possible when you guys are trying to plan your integration, or else you're going to have to go through a lot of refactoring. And we've seen that many, many, many times, and it's extremely costing. And I'm sure, no CIO, no business leader, nobody wants to hear from their architecture team, sorry, we didn't talk to this vendor fast enough, and now we actually realize that, they don't accept REST services, and they only take SOAP services, and now we have to go ahead and change our APIs that we've already built and have to re-expose them out to them again, and we have to go through that testing cycle, and based on the significance of that vendor, that actually could have an impact on your go-live date, and actually the whole end-to-end user experience that you guys are having. So that's a very important thing, or else just like this silly image shows, you know, everybody thinks they're going down their path, your vendors are working, your teams are working. When you come to talk to each other, it's broken, right? And we just don't want to be in that type of environment.
For the audience, have anyone encountered this scenario? Has anyone faced similar issues? Oh, seeing one nod. That's fine. I think we all have at some point.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that none of you guys here have incorporated issues with integration, external integration, unless you guys have the absolute best SAP teams in the world.
Or, well, no, and it goes to one of our slides. I mean, from the end user, everything might be kosher, but behind the scenes, for the support team, the technology team, it may be an issue with maintenance,
which is this.
Yes. So, so the illustration here, you know, it may not be clear for the audience here. So, the left side here is the UI, the end users. Everything looks great on their end. Everything is kosher. They can operate day to day, and everything's fine. There's no complaints. They're able to perform their tests. They may have a new requirement. There may be changes. And the support team, this is what they see practically, is a bowl of spaghetti with spaghetti sauce. And it becomes confusing. Maintenance becomes a challenge. Modifications to the code or program becomes an issue as well. Do we have proper documentation? Going back to my point earlier, if we don't have detailed design documents or technical specs, it becomes a challenge. I actually been part of that actually. So what ends up happening is the reverse engineer try to figure out where's the business logic, where does it reside? And so these are some of the challenges that we've encountered with customers on previous projects. And that's a nice picture of the spaghetti, by the way. I like it.
Makes me hungry.
So this illustration here is, so a good buddy of ours is cutting pizza. And so the key message here is having the right tools in place, right tools and right resources. Excuse me. So going back to what we mentioned earlier, having the proper planning, methodology, having a detailed, defined digital transformation roadmap that identifies the right personas and journey maps. And regarding to resource, what Bashir mentioned earlier, having an architect in place. If you don't have that resource in-house, it's highly recommended to speak to someone to help you lay out and build that foundation so that you don't have these issues coming up.
And looking at things like automated testing up front, right?
Yes.
If you guys are utilizing SAP, looking at a product like Tosca by
Yes.
Tricentis, right? Amazing automated testing suite that allows you to test everything from the integration to the API down to the database layer, right? Incorporating these steps as part of your transformation becomes a key to your success as part of this.
And then unfortunately here, so there's not a single solution. So there's, again, going back to the business case. The business case is the driver. We have one of our customers, for example, for a single app. We're actually utilizing RFCs, SAP PI, and also HANA Cloud for a single app. Now, there was a valid business case, and that was the reason why we decided to go with that approach.
And the beautiful part about that, which is now our next section, is how are we integrating that world into the app? And that's where we're proud to say we're using Mendix, or else you're going to face issues, right? And that's where, you know, the key thing is, if you guys don't have the right process, if you guys don't have the right procedure, if you don't have the right tools, if you don't have the right architects, if you don't have the right testing models and the right methodologies, if you're not talking to your vendors in time, this is the type of experience that your customer is going to face. Right? Because at the end of the day, why do we all spend millions of dollars and euros on your projects? It's we want to make the customers happy, which means there's going to be a consistent revenue stream, which is going to mean you're going to reduce your overall costs to serve them. And overall, your team is going to be happier day to day in how they're operating.
Yeah, from a maintenance. Yep, you want to reduce the overall maintenance of it. And that's where the whole finger pointing comes. It's like, right, who's at fault, who's the issue? And so, and going back to Bashir's point, the user, it becomes a horrible user experience.
Well, as third parties, we end up being always at fault,
yes.
Right? You know, our customers come in and say, well, why don't you tell me this? Well, we tried to, but your technical team decided not to, and they said, we're only going to integrate using PI. When we told you that it's probably not the right approach for you, and it's not the fastest approach because your third-party service provider has a different protocol, and they can integrate much faster if you use REST services, right? So it becomes, you know, we have to act as advisors, and actually really we look at you guys as our customers or potential partners to really help whoever you're working with really understand the value of why, and not just be yes men, and not just say, all right, sure, if that's what you want, that's exactly what I'm going to do. No, we have to come in. You guys pay us to come in and to help teach, educate, and actually help make sure that your systems are sustainable.
Yep, which leads to having a solution that acts as the logic layer and orchestrator.
Absolutely. Which is why now we're saying, why don't you look at using Mendix as an integration layer? So yes, Mendix can integrate. You guys saw there was a lot of bubbles in the initial screen where Giancarlo basically showed that all the different types of SAP integration capabilities and integration types. And we could really integrate Mendix almost into all of those, right? And that's the true power of Mendix and all the new adapters that Mendix keeps putting out on the App Store. And as their relationship with SAP increases, we're also confident that Mendix will keep coming up with new functionality and new mechanisms of integrating with other SAP tools, like whether it's Ariba, whether it's SuccessFactors, whether it's Fieldglass, whether it's S4 HANA, ISU, BW, it doesn't matter, right? There's many different approaches and many ways for us to be able to integrate SAP in using Mendix to the rest of the world. Because don't forget, right? Mendix has connectors, Mendix has modules, Mendix has transformation, we can bring things together. Mendix has connection management, so I can tell if something's going on, specifically if I'm using some of the man systems tools where I'm monitoring the performance of my application, and I can tell if something is going wrong. Mendix has error management in it, so if something's going on, and especially the logging, where we can go in and actually check out and see what's going on. So all these key functionalities really allows us to look at Mendix as a true orchestrator of data and acting as a middleware and an integration layer for your SAP environment. Because Mendix can integrate with Concur, can integrate with social media, can integrate with communication channels like Twilio, like SendGrid. Well, SendGrid just was bought by Twilio. And different types of non-just communication protocols. It can integrate with Salesforce. You can integrate directly with databases. So it really, irrespective, and it doesn't matter how complex you guys think your use case is, you could really utilize Mendix to start integrating with other applications and other systems and bringing them into the table. So this is how basically you could look at where to fit Mendix. So if you have SAP HANA S4 or ECC, one of our customers is actually using R3. I don't know if you guys, anybody here still on R3, the old version? We have one person still on R3, right? So R3, I can still expose SOAP services from R3, and I can still integrate that with any other application that I need without having to go ahead and actually re-platform my SAP environment. So it allows us to also add a layer of, you can call modernization, right? So pace-layered architecture. We can put really Mendix on top of that and start integrating and orchestrating with any different type of application that we have outside of our network or within our network, just like GC was mentioning earlier on. So we wanted to show here a use case where Mendix is really acting as an orchestrator. So one of our customers, their name is Aramex. They are a large logistics company. They operate in 41 countries, and they have around 15,000 employees. So they're a small company. And basically, they wanted to deploy a crowdsourcing product so the crowd can start helping them deliver their packages. Now, they already had a mobile application that they had built for certain vendors that they had. They already had a certain portal that basically people can come in and register. But what they didn't have is integration with SAP. They went through a large S4 HANA implementation, and now SAP became their source of truth, right? So everything happens through SAP. So what we basically did is we put Mendix in between SAP and 6 other applications that they have. There was a third-party billing app outside of SAP that we integrated with. There was an SMS, MMS system that we integrated with. There was a job system that basically it's their operational system that identifies what package do I have that's ready and when is it ready and when do I need to pick it up and where is it going to. They also had a debriefing function where basically if I'm a driver that goes and delivers packages, I have to come back to the warehouse and basically debrief with whoever gave me the packages so they can verify that 100% of the packages that I picked up were delivered, or if I have any packages left, they go back into the warehouse and the status of the package needs to change. So they were first looking at basically developing this in the traditional technology stacks that they were using, and they were looking at also RabbitMQ. They had another ESB that they were considering, and their internal team actually gave them an estimate of around 6 months to be able to deliver this project, okay? So we came in with Mendix. We said, hey, look, we actually built our applications, and we have a certified SAP add-on integrating with our Mendix environment that we're very proud of. And we actually think we can implement this a lot faster for you using Mendix than using your traditional technology stack. So they basically said, okay, we're not too sure. They were a little bit doubtful, so they said, let's run these two things in parallel. They have money. They could afford to do that. So we did. And we actually finished in 6 weeks. So we were able to integrate all their systems, come up with all, so in the 6 weeks, we wrote the journey maps, we drew them out, defined the business rules, integrated Mendix with all their environments, including SAP, integrated Mendix with their current mobile app that they have from a logic standpoint and exposing services, integrated Mendix with their operational systems and other third-party communication tools, all in a 6-week period. And we were able, and they're using it right now, they've deployed the app across 14 countries so far, and we are the heart. So we are the core orchestrator. We are pulling system data, and we're also creating. So you can see here, we're actually creating master data in SAP, so it's not just a pull. We're actually also pushing down. There are edits and modifications that drivers could actually perform using their apps, and Mendix is what's going out and orchestrating and committing all of those changes in their SAP environment and vice versa. So as you can see, we have data going bi-directional. Right? So it's not just from SAP, it's to SAP, as well as to the other third-party applications. So the Mendix part itself doesn't have an app, right? So there's no app. There is just basically a bunch of services that are orchestrating all of this data environment. So yeah, I wouldn't read it. I'm hoping you guys would have read exactly what it's doing, but we wanted to show you guys down to the details of how we were able to actually, and what we were able to do with this Mendix application. And it was fast. And then the Mendix OData connector is actually super easy to use, very, very, very user-friendly, and our engineers were able to really take big advantage of that. So we really thank the Mendix team for building that out and making it available to everybody in the store. So we have one demo video that we want to show, just another example of how to use Mendix to integrate the world, and especially with SAP. So we're going to now show you a video with a very complicated scenario, which is a utility start service scenario. So basically, we are using AWS with Lambda as well as Lex for the bot service. We have Mendix as a core orchestrator in the middle. So Lambda is talking to Mendix. And then we have SAP in the background. And then we also have Slack. So we brought Slack into the environment. And basically the scenario is a user can go on and request from their utilities to turn on their electric service using Slack, right? How many people here use Slack? How many people here don't know what Slack is? All right, good question. So thanks you for it. So what Slack is, if you know what Skype for Business is, it's an enterprise communication tool that a lot of companies actually utilize. You can deploy bots, you can deploy apps, you can deploy different things utilizing Slack. It's a really cool tool. We use it internally. A lot of our customers have now migrated. We don't sell Slack. I'm not here to promote Slack, but it's a really awesome tool. You can make phone calls using it. You can do almost anything that you do on Skype, but it's a lot more enterprise grade. I don't know if they've been purchased or anything by anybody, but what I'm going to do right now, if you just give me 1 minute, is I'm going to set up the video for me to be able to show you guys. Oops. So what we're doing here is we're basically asking Slack to start our app. Slack basically recognizes who you are because you installed the app, so there's an initial linking that's done between you and Slack, and that linking goes back to SAP. So what basically we're showing here is our product owner is actually asking, the bot is asking to identify, taking the phone number, and is going through AWS and then passing it back to Mendix to talk to SAP to basically validate for them if this is an actual true phone number. And then once it goes through and it gets validated, it basically sees if it's the first time we're talking, how can we help you, can I help you set up service? So you go through it, and it goes through a series of questioning. So the questions that are being asked were defined in AWS, but then all the data validation, and all the orchestration is being done through Mendix. This process normally takes a utility on the phone anywhere from 5 to 17 minutes, depending on the total number of services, the complexity of the previous account, because agents have to do multiple sets of validations, and this is where we actually have Mendix doing all of that validation, all of that orchestration, and actually letting, like I said, the bot know what is the next sequence of events that are needed. And that's where we see there's the big value in having Mendix integrate with SAP into this type of environment. And now basically we can turn a process that took, at the most 15 minutes to now take at the most 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, something like that, which really, really, really helps utilities improve their customer experience. Now you can see a confirmation was done, an account number was created. The confirmation is actually the service order in SAP, so we're integrating with plant maintenance, enterprise asset management, and a few other areas to be able to go ahead. And this is basically now going into our agent portal to show that this actually took place. So this is another Mendix app that we have created. This is for humans to use, unlike our other apps that we've created that are pure bot-based or orchestration-based. So it's showing that the service that was requested, they said no gas, no electric, only water was then selected. They created the account number goes in, so now you're seeing it within SAP, and all of that basically took place in an extremely short period of time. So we're very proud of that. Well, that's all that we have for you guys today. We appreciate your time, and we will open it for questions. Moderator.
How do you teach the app which questions to ask during that example you gave just now?
Good question. So that stuff is on the AWS side in terms of what to ask. So we are actually configuring those in a product called Lex by AWS. So if you don't know it, go out and check it out. But then over time, we have machine learning algorithms. So what we're doing is, not to divert, we're trying to take call center data, put it towards our algorithms to identify the different types of how do I ask for a certain thing? Because there could be n number of variances of how I ask for a high bill complaint. Like for example, I could call very gently and nicely and say, hi, I'd like to ask about why is my bill high today? Or I can call and say, hey, what the hell is this? I saw that my bill is high, and I have to know that it's the same thing, right? So over time, our algorithms are going to be teaching the Lex and the Lambda components of AWS, which we're using, again, their ML and, machine learning as well as deep learning platforms to basically keep teaching it over time. And that's going to be really coming in from the IVR data, because the IVR data is really what has the human-to-human interaction, because I'm asking a human a question, and they're actually responding and doing a system action. So over time, we'll be teaching the platform through that. Good question. There were a few questions here, too.
If you look at the picture of connecting Mendix to the SAP system, does that also require then the cloud connector?
No, yeah.
No,
so
it's
we're
just
doing
the
this
direct.
so we're doing this for customers that have it on premise. You don't really need to be in the cloud, right? So because we deploy Mendix on premise too. We don't deploy Mendix using the Mendix cloud, mainly because Mendix cloud doesn't allow us to do direct VPN tunneling, and we can't have our own dedicated cloud, so we don't really use the Mendix cloud at all. So it's either going to be on premise or using our private cloud.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So extend to this question, like then what is the what connector you use to talk with Mendix with let's say R3 system?
Yeah. So with R3 we have our certified package by SAP that we deploy that exposes the SOAP services. that would be able to consume. And if you have Gateway already, and let's say you're in a newer version, I think Gateway started in ECC 6, EHP 7 or 6 or 8 or something like that. If you have that going forward, then you can basically utilize that as well as so exposing the OData services to be consumed. Or like Giancarlo said, we actually have a customer where we use multiple protocols. So we have OData, we have SOAP, we have PIPO, all integrating with one app. So we had our services, so the customer said, yeah, it doesn't make sense for me to rebuild. If you have your SAP package that can expose a certain set of services, I want to use that. So we did that. And then they had invested in a certain set of OData services that they utilized, so we basically said, okay, we'll be able to consume that and just map it into our app to basically consume your services. And then they had another set of services that they had basically made a big investment in PIPO. So at that point, I mean, we're not going to tell our customers we have to rebuild, because that's against the whole model. The whole point is not to refactor. It's to use what you have to the maximum capability that we can do it for you. I hope that answered your question. Yep. Thank you.
What about performance?
Good question. So far, so the largest app we've deployed has around 1.2 million monthly users. So pretty
that answers the
significant.
question.
Yeah, and we have no problems with that. And then this in the background from an orchestration standpoint, again, if you eliminate the user and you're just having data and systems talking to each other, it's pretty scalable.
Questions?
Perfect. I hope we didn't bore you guys too much. Thank you for your time. And yeah, we'd love to answer any additional questions that you guys have. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.